training camp schedule came out today for the Bills, July 23rd. Mm-hmm. Sal, it's 2 weeks and a day, training camp. I don't know if it's the shortest ever, but it's 2 weeks, one more day, and then it's over.
So, I mean, time-wise, I don't know if it's the shortest ever. I would guess no. I would say the reason why is I just did the research before coming on with you guys. It's the exact same number of practices for the last 2 years. It's 3 years in a row that it's 11 total, but one is closed to the fans, and it's just media only. They do that because they like to stay off the grass, and move over to the field to kind of let the grass kind of rejuvenate a little bit, and they go over to the other field. They do that sometimes, and they do it a lot of times for, like, to have some corporate partners out there and just have more of an intimate setting. Either way, the point is it's 11 total practices, 10 open to the media, and then another practice back here, in Buffalo at Orchard Park, the return of the blue and the red, they call it. I don't know. I think we can go back. I went back to 2022. That was longer. I think there were 14 or 15 out there. That's the last time it was a little bit more lengthy. Sometimes it might be a little bit determined on when that first preseason game is or where it is. This year it happens to be on Saturday back at Orchard Park. So they'll break on Thursday the 7th, and they will not go back to training camp. That'll be their last day out there.
Yeah, it makes sense that with so much that has changed with what training camp is needed for, right? Guys are in shape. It's not as thoroughly hard hitting as it was even 15 or 20 years ago. That they would sort of McDermott is on the record of liking to get the team away. He likes going away, but I guess it makes sense that it would be shorter as you go here because you have such great facilities at home now too, and as much as you want the players to get that taste of being in the dorms and all that stuff, you've got a veteran team with the Super Bowl in mind here, and I just don't think you need guys living in dorms for a month, so it makes sense that it's been like they're getting the best of both. You still get to go away and that camaraderie or whatever they're looking for, what benefit there is to being away, but it's also shorter, which I think is suitable for a team that's as experienced and as ready to do what the Bills are trying to do.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of layers of this, and we go back to McDermott and Bean, maybe 5-6 years ago, we would talk to them about what's the future at St. John Fisher look like. I can't imagine they want to go there knowing, the kind of people they are, wanting everything kind of right here and all the facility they just built. And they, to their credit, they kept telling us, no, that's not true. Like, we like going there. We like going there because of the camaraderie it builds and having the team together. And they stayed true to their word about it. Mm-hmm. But what happened was it got a little shorter, that's all. So, yes, I believe them. They want to go out there. They like going out there for those reasons. And they've always maintained that. And I do think there's knowing the way these men operate and knowing the way what they believe about a team and how to build a football team and the foundation for that team coming at that time of year. They believe being together in dorm rooms and meeting rooms and going out and hanging out with each other and all those things that go along with it are very important. At the same time, they also recognize that they don't have quite the facilities there that they have back here in Buffalo. And by the time the preseason rolls around, which is game number 1, August 9th, okay, time to come back to Buffalo, start getting things ready. I'll also say, remember, there's only 3 preseason games now. Things have changed in that regard, right? Where you don't have that extra game. So you kind of the season kind of creeps up a little bit quicker, not necessarily date-wise, but game-wise. I think that's part of it as well. And then, guys, there's always the business side of things. And when Russ Brandon actually started training camp at St. John Fisher back in, 2000, that was the first year they went out there, and he had ties to the area, obviously, in the college. That was to really help market the team on that side of the state ever since they had been in Fredonia and over here. And it really was good for the Bills, and it's been good for the Bills. And that part of the state is very important to the Bills. That area of the state is very good to the Bills. And I'm not saying it's the only reason, but I do think it matters for business purposes.
Yeah, I think that all makes sense. I was skeptical. I thought McDermott largely was just saying what needed to be said because of the relationship that he inherited. Mm-hmm. And as soon as the opportunity was going to present itself, they'd be in Orchard Park, and that would be that. And I was wrong. I mean, they have kept going and kept renewing this, and so clearly they see a benefit. Otherwise, I don't think they would keep going because they've had opportunities to get out.
Other teams have gone the other way, though. They have stopped doing it. A lot of teams don't go away now. More teams don't go away than do go away now. Back in the day, everybody went away, right? When we were growing up, it's like everybody had a camp somewhere. Now that's not the case. These teams have their own training facilities. They have their own practice facilities. Their meeting rooms are so incredible. I mean, heck, the Bills are lending theirs to the Sabres for their draft room coming up, right? All these things that are happening that you can have at your own facility. But the Bills have been one of the teams and still are one of the teams that, stay somewhere else. It's just far enough to get away. It's just close enough to come back as well. That's also a part of it. I always used to say that when I went to Syracuse University, like, it's just far enough that I'm away from my parents, but just close enough I can come home to give my laundry to my mom and say, can you help me out a little bit, right? And get some money or whatever. Right. I mean, it was always that thing. I think the true test is going to be once everything is done at the new stadium. Right. I would predict, as I sit here, that next year they're back at St. John Fisher. It's the first year in the stadium. There's a lot that's still going on. They're still buttoning up. There's a lot of ways that they have to kind of figure everything out. And I'm not telling you I think they're going to leave St. John Fisher, anytime after that. But I do think that will be the first real test of, okay, you'll still have the facility across the street with the practice facility. We know that's staying. Everything they use at One Bills Drive is staying, other than the stadium. The only thing that's different is the stadium for game day will be across the street.
Mm-hmm. Still funny that the Cowboys go to California,
right,
for their training camp. That's a tradition that's lasted. Sal Capaccio with us. Was this news today, or did we already know that the Bills will practice with the Bears in Chicago the weekend before a day or two, at the most probably two, before their game against the Bears? The Bears game is on a Sunday night. I think it's a national TV game. But I'm seeing that the Bills will practice with the Bears at least on the Friday before.
It's not news if you've been listening and following me, I guess I'd say. We did put this out. I did tweet about this a couple of weeks ago, actually.
Am I allowed to miss something here? I mean, you make it sound like I wouldn't know anything you've said. That's not the case.
It's all good. It's all good. Things are happening at a rapid pace, and sometimes they're not officially official until the teams put it out there. I do think the Bears. What happened, Mike, was the Bears confirmed it a couple weeks ago and had talked about it, and Ben Johnson had talked about it, because what happened was the Bears. They will have both the Bills and Dolphins as training camp partners and having joint practices. So they were asked about it. Our buddy Chris Emma of The Score out in Chicago, he wrote an article about it actually a couple of weeks ago. And then the last day of mini camp, we talked with Brandon Beane, and I asked him about it, and he talked about it and confirmed it. This was last week. And he said, we're going out there, and, this is what we hope to get from it and what we've got in the past. And, the way the schedule is going to line up is basically – the team will fly out on Thursday, August, that would be the 14th. There will be a joint practice on the 15th, which is a Friday. The team will have off on the 16th, off in the sense of, not having a practice against the Bears. And then they'll have that Sunday night game on national television on the 17th. It'll be very, very similar to what they did against the Pittsburgh Steelers last year.
Okay.
And that'll be it for that, right? If they were doing any more of that kind of thing, we would know that already with the schedule being released like it has been today.
That is correct. And I thought it was interesting on Bean's answer when I asked him last week, what are you getting out of it? What do you hope to get? What have you gotten? And what he said was the one practice is really good, because what happens if you do more than one practice a lot of times, that's when you might get into those situations where it just becomes guys getting after each other too much. You have to keep stopping practice, because if one side gets the better of another one day, you're looking for them the next day, right? Oh, we got to get after them. It gets a little bit more intense from a standpoint of maybe uncontrollable in some ways. So if you just have that one practice and you have some one-on-ones and some 7-on-7 and you're out of there after 3 hours, bam, you're all done with it, and that's a good test. And I think it's a good test for the Bills defense to go against a Ben Johnson offense, by the way, in a setting like that. I think it's going to be really, they have some real good firepower on that offense, and obviously you'll have the practice and then you'll have the game. But I think that's a nice team to kind of do that against.
I love that point. I think Chicago is. I haven't ranked the teams by this, but thinking of the teams that might take the preseason the most seriously. How could Chicago not be up there? Mm-hmm. I mean, Caleb Williams is only in year 2, new coach, Burden and Loveland, high draft picks at skill positions. Not to mention Odunze, who's a second-year player. They have a lot to figure out, and they're coming off such a bad year. We talked last week about how the Bears averaged 10 yards for the season on their first drive of the game. I mean, they were just – Williams was terrible. The team was just – the offense was just terrible. So, he's a star and everything, I guess. He's franchise quarterback, but I think I'd want him on the field I don't know. Can I say that? I don't want anybody on the field.
Do you remember, Mike, do you remember last year, the Bears in preseason? Do you remember the Bears? They came here. Do you remember about the Bears in preseason last year?
No.
They were awesome. They had an awesome preseason. And I remember when they came here. It's funny, the Bears were the Hard Knocks team last year. So when they came to Buffalo for preseason, the Hard Knocks cameras came to Buffalo. One of the episodes on Hard Knocks last year was the Bears being in Orchard Park for their preseason game against the Bills. And the Bears came to Buffalo and just destroyed them, 33-6. And this was on the heels of them having an incredible preseason where they started in the Hall of Fame game. They went 4-0. They scored 21, 33, 27, and 34. The last one and they played the Bills, the Bengals, the Chiefs, and the Texans, like four of the top teams in the AFC. And what I remember about that was, especially after the Bills game, I could tell they were planning. They were game planning. They were scripting. And that was, to me, nothing wrong with it in order to give Caleb Williams confidence, right? Like, hey, let's get this guy some confidence. Let's show him what we can do. And the question was, what would happen when other teams started to do that to them? And then we found out.
Well, yes. I love those examples where a team is great in the preseason and then, bad. They were 4-2 and a play away from winning in Washington for 5-2. The Hail Mary. And they ended up, they lost 10 in a row, starting with that. Winning in Week 18 against a Packers team that didn't need it for 5-12. What about the Bills in the preseason? I'm not sure Allen's much worth talking about. Maybe he makes a token appearance in the home game or something, or one of the games that's happened before. I mean, it doesn't always have to be about wide receivers, but I think we've discussed this. That position will be really interesting this summer, and I feel like the preseason should be some clue into how they want to do it, whether that's Elijah Moore, Palmer, or any of them, really. Even Coleman, Sal. I mean, second-year guy, he's not really locked in yet as a consistent player. So maybe we'll see a lot of movement at wide receiver in the preseason, then we get to decide what we think it means.
I wonder what we'll see and when we'll see if Josh Allen at all. I think, yes, certainly that first game at home against Brian Daboll and the Giants, could be one. It's the home game. It'll be Kids Day because the Bills have one home game, so that makes sense. Maybe you might see Josh Allen. I don't think the Bills have to hold to that necessarily, but it's also early in the preseason. It might make sense. It could be that second game, though. It's at the Bears, and maybe that's why, it's on national TV, 8 p.m. I think it's on Fox. Fox is like, okay, well, maybe we'll see Josh Allen that night.
You're right, it is on Fox.
Yeah, best chance to see Allen against Caleb Williams. So, let's put that game on national television. Then again, if Allen is playing a lot in that, or getting a lot of practice time against them, maybe not. I think if I remember right, let me go back real quick. Yes, okay, so last year was the Steelers was second week. Allen was supposed to play that game. There was an hour-plus rain delay on the field. He did not play. And the reason was, we were told, because of the field conditions, they did not want to risk anything. So if everything holds true, you have the same situation this year. Home game to start, away game backed up with a joint practice on Friday. I think that would be the most sense and make the most sense if they're going to plan the same kind of way for Josh Allen to start. And then what's interesting to me is that third preseason game. It's against the team they play in the regular season, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I find that to be odd. So I actually texted Mike North about this. I said, I find this odd. Like, who makes the preseason schedule? Do the teams do it? Do the league? He said the league makes the preseason schedule. I always thought the teams had a little bit of a say. That's why you get a lot of these rivalry games.
That's why we had the annual Detroit-Buffalo game because of Ralph Wilson. I always assumed that was ownership's shaking hands on that.
And I bet you it was, Bulldog, to a point of, hey, whatever you do, just make sure we're playing that team, right? And then they kind of give them the nod, okay, it's preseason, we'll let you. We've seen a lot of that around the league. We see the Jets and Giants do that a lot. We've seen a couple of the Florida teams do that a lot. But anyway, what his answer to me was, I'll read it to you. He said, most important thing is to try to minimize travel. Well, that's actually a long trip. And if that brings along a regular season duplicate, so be it, especially given the teams don't show much in August and the regular season game is almost 4 months later with these two teams. So I find that interesting. I do not think we're going to see any starters really play in that game anyway, but especially considering they play each other in the regular season.
Right. I mean, if you go way back, it used to happen all the time. Mm-hmm. They'd play 6 preseason games, and some of those are going to be, probably division games. And it's hard to look up preseason stats. It's not easy. Like regular season, postseason, it's one click. but preseason is tougher. So maybe I'll dig into that a little bit.
Well, as these things go, I think, the Tampa game, like you said, Sal, like nobody on either side is going to be playing. It's the end of the line. But with the Bears and a new coach and all the receivers Mike was talking about, and Williams going into his second year, and them being at home, I don't know what the Bills will do in that game, but I feel like you're going to get some opportunity to see the real guys there. And the Giants likewise. Like Jackson Dart is the future, at least for now, there with Daboll. And so I would expect, whatever. Maybe it'll be Jameis or Russell Wilson or whatever. But I would expect you're going to get a good, healthy dose of Jackson Dart.
I love a healthy dose of Jackson Dart.
Who doesn't?
No doubt. I like that. I mean, if you go back, it's actually we've been pretty fortunate. Caleb Williams' first start was here in Buffalo, right? When he came last year. I think a couple of years ago was Anthony Richardson. So really funny, right?
Yeah,
when you think about that.
Yeah.
I think RG3 was another one.
Yeah.
I remember being excited
right.
for him, as a rookie with Washington at the stadium. So
there is a very long list. We've actually done this. I've had this on my show and on social with fans. There's actually a really long list of NFL quarterbacks who've made their debut against the Buffalo Bills, and not even just preseason. I'm talking regular season.
Yeah.
Like Jeff George, Drew Bledsoe, Ryan Leaf, even Joe Namath, I guess. Someone, and I went back and looked. That's right.
Marino.
Dan Marino. It's pretty amazing, actually, when you think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had this conversation a while back and started to hear other names brought up for that. Okay.
Well, you asked me about position. You mentioned Allen. You did mention receiver, so I'll touch on that. Yeah, I think that's like kind of the spot I'm a little focused on. Maybe not because of position battles. I do think there's battles there, but I like the top 5 where they are right now. I just wonder. I'm more intrigued of what I see from guys like Elijah Moore and Joshua Palmer, because on offense, guys, these are the only 2 new guys. That's it.
Right.
Like really, they're the only 2 new guys on the entire offense. If you want to count Caden Prather, that's fine. But I mean, like everybody else is the same in the quarterback room, the running back room, the tight end room. Yes, Jackson Hawes blocking tight end. I get it, but every offensive lineman is back. What else is there to really watch and learn from at the wide receiver, other than that at the wide receiver spot?
Recently in here, we had a topic about things from sports past that you can't believe are real. Just like goalies came up, a few different things. Like, how was it actually like this? How do you think we would have been in the mid-'70s if, say, like this was a job that we had and we're 50 years ago, and the Bills are playing 6 preseason games before their 14 regular season games? Like, would we have just gone crazy? Did people take the starters probably played them all? Did people take the results really seriously in the 70s and early 80s? Probably yes.
I think so. I think I did as a fan. I think you follow the lead of what maybe to an extent whatever the media is saying and what it sounds and feels like. That's how I remember it. I don't remember not caring about preseason until I started doing this for a living in 1995. I think and that first year I missed the preseason. I started the morning after the opener or the evening after the opener in 95, and by that next summer it was like, are you kidding with these preseason games? Like it just became a thing then. So prior to like 1995, I think I cared, finger quotes around cared, about what the preseason games look like. Way more than I do now.
I remember the first time I kind of got into like, okay, preseason was when the Bills have been bad for a long time, and then they get Jim Kelly, and then they go out to California and beat the Raiders.
Yes, I was hoping you were going to say that.
Yes, and they beat the Raiders in a preseason game. And I remember sitting, give him a shout out, my buddy Matt Lexner, who's a teacher and coach at Orchard Park, and he goes, dude, they just beat the Raiders. Like, that's cool. And I'm like, yeah, right? We're kids, right? But, oh, my God, like, they might be actually pretty good. Who knows?
Right.
And then I remember the other one I remember was Ron Pitts, Elijah Pitts' son, with a really long pick 6, I think against the Chiefs maybe in a preseason game that got me juiced up. Like, yeah, here we go. Let's go. Like, that happened, too.
August 22nd, 1987, Saturday night, Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, the final, Bills 7, Raiders 3.
Oh my God!
And it was
amazing.
The best. It was the best.
That.
Like, I totally remember watching that game. Be like, hang on. As soon as you started going down that road, like, say the Raider game. Say the 87 Raider game.
Yes.
Very good. All right. Thank you, Sal. I'll try to do better following you and getting all the
No,
latest
it's all good. You're allowed every once in a while. You're allowed to be disconnected here and there. I try to be. I won't be around next couple of days, so I'll talk to you guys next week.
In my defense, can it be August joint practices be the story that I miss? I mean, come on. All right.
All right, Sal. We'll talk to you sometime next week.
You got it, guys.
All right, this is Sal Capaccio.